Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Reasonably Effective Podcast. I'm John Types, as I was joined by Uncommon Fossil.
Well, glad to be here and looking forward to talk about some neglected cards today.
Yeah, we're talking about some cards that are, and you said neglected, kind of underrated. These are cards that we think are pretty good that aren't being played as much as, maybe they should be. These cards are underrated. That doesn't mean they're the same level of power as each other. There's some that are not that good, but people think are really bad. There's some that are quite good that people think are just kind of meh. And some of these cards you might have forgotten about as well. But I'm excited to dive into this. We know what cards were talked about before. Sometimes we like save it for the podcast to save the discussion. But we've talked about these a little bit before, and I'm really excited to dive into these cards here. But what was your first card here?
The first card, which is also the one I think that gets the most plays, and I think it's the most expensive card at about 20 cents a copy. So these are all very budget cards that you expect. That's Sacred Ash, an item. What it lets you do, is shuffle up to five Pokemon from your discard pile into your deck. So we don't have Rod in the deck in standard format anymore of any type. Obviously, Rod lets you do. There have been different rods, but they let you put Pokemon and or energies from the discard pile back in the deck. Or, maybe your hand. I forget all the different variations over the years. But this is more limited. It's only Pokemon, but it is five, which is a lot. And since we don't have any other good way to get Pokemon from the discard pile into your deck, this is good. I don't. Is there a supporter now that does this or not? Something to some extent. I
That
don't remember.
does what into the
That
deck?
moves Pokemon from the discard pile into the deck.
Not that I can think of off the top of my head. Let me look.
There was what Miriam, but that's rotated, right?
Yeah, Miriam, which was this plus draw three, but on a supporter. I'm looking here at standard. Oh, I've looked at too many cards. There is actually. Let me look at just trainers. But there is a Big Catch Net, or no, sorry, Great Hall Net,
Oh,
which is a card I forgot about. I'm not gonna lie, which is similar. It gets it gets Pokemon and basic energy cards there. Oh, it's up to three of both, but they are only water. So definitely some
right.
restrictions there. There's cards that get things into your hand, which are good. There's like Lana's Aid, which I guess is kind of similar-ish, but obviously if you want it in the deck, Sacred Ash does that, and it gets more than everything except for Great Hall Net, which is kind of limited in what it does.
Right, so limits to water. So this gets you five. Very nice there. We have, like I said, we don't have Rod now. So the complementary card or the coordinate card would be Energy Recycler that gets five. It's five, right? Again, up
Yeah,
energies to the discard pile into the deck. So you have both of those. But if we had Rod in deck, I don't think I'd have Sacred Ash here because Rod for the versatility is probably better. It gives you both options. Part of why Sacred Ash isn't played a ton is because we have Night Stretcher, right? Night Stretcher is very, very good, right? It lets you put in that deals with an energy or Pokemon. Only one, it goes in your hand, which is generally better than into your deck. There are certainly situations you want it in the deck, but that's not the big deal. But it only lets you do one card, one copy of one card. Where this is up to five Pokemon, so it's really gives some nice versatility. It's seen, like I said, the most plays. Like I'm looking at NAIC in particular because that was recent and obviously the current standard format. It's got, I don't know, 50 or so decks that it was in out of what, a couple thousand or whatever. So not a ton of plays, but obviously people are aware of it. Mostly Alakazam is what I'm seeing it in, which makes sense for a single prize deck and a deck like that you need to be getting a lot of cards. Your stage twos are getting knocked out. You can attack a bunch of times theoretically with a single prize deck, and you want to get those cards back in your hand again too. So it makes sense in that. But I think it's got enough value that I can see it in some rule box decks as well, just because it's very limited ways to get Pokemon back in play. The more ability you have to recover Pokemon, that means the less copies you need in your deck, which lets you do more versatility with different trainers, right? So that's kind of the trade-off. Yes, you don't need Sacred Ash if you play a bunch of Pokemon in your deck, but then you've given up deck space for that. So I think Sacred Ash probably should be in more decks. Certainly, it's a card to consider for most decks for sure.
yeah, definitely. I mean, Pokemon recovery is good. It depends. I mean, Night Stretcher is really good. I think most people think Night Stretcher
Yeah.
is really good. I think it's even better than what other people think. I play it just like in super high quantities and like essentially every deck I play because it has versatility, and then it also gets the cards straight into your hand, so it can almost act like a search card. So it actually used to be paired with a
Yeah.
search card. That's not too bad. You can usually do it, especially in like the late game. We're not really searching for too many other cards. If you Sacred Ash them like Ultra Ball or something, that's fine usually. But
Right.
I mean, I feel like Night Stretcher in that situation, you're just getting one Pokemon, right? So Sacred Ash is really
Yeah.
important, or is really good if you're using a bunch of Pokemon like all the time. Yeah, you mentioned Alakazam, that's where it's
Yeah.
being played in some. And yeah, Alakazam, there you're going to have your Alakazam line when that's knocked out. I mean, you want to get as many, kind of as many as in play as you can, because that's going to let you draw more cards and also be more set up with your attacker actually in play. So it is certainly good to, like, it kind of makes sense there. I think that's pretty specific. We're looking at a single prizer that's like a full stage 2 line that you're not, I mean, you can rare candy, but you're not looking to rare candy necessarily all the time, and you're going to have lots of cards to recover. I think that situation doesn't come up as much as it just seems not super common. And even Alakazam, I mean, I don't play too much Alakazam. It seems like decent. Also,
Yeah.
again, it doesn't recover energies, so if you're looking to recover energy, I mean, like Alakazam, you're not really running too many basic energies, so it makes kind of more sense there. With Night Searcher's not going to be as useful. I still find myself definitely kind of liking Night Searcher in that deck as well. I feel like Sacred Ash is okay. Definitely a decent card, I think. Obviously, this is, by the way, the most played. Right, it's the most played of the cards we're going to talk about in this video.
Um, right now,
Yeah.
at least, you have at least one card that we'll probably get to that had been played a lot in the past, but not so much now. So yes, right now, certainly this is the most card was played by far the most at NAIC in particular.
Yeah. So that's definitely like notable in terms of like how underrated it is if it's, displayed some.
Yeah.
But so what are you looking at in terms of more like specific use cases of this? I would just think it should be like a one of in a lot of different decks.
Yeah, here's another deck that it also was in some Team Rockets decks, but also it was played in Beedrill, which I played a little bit of Beedrill. It's not the best deck around. I'm not gonna I don't think it is, but it's a fun deck. So in the way it was used in Beedrill, Beedrill with the Dunsparce engine, two Night Stretchers, one Sacred Ash makes sense. The Beedrill is a single energy attacker, so it only has 5 energies. So you're probably using Night Stretcher a lot of times for energy as well. And then you have the one Sacred Ash to get back some Pokemon. Also, it also helps if you're using the Dunsparce engine. If the Dunsparces, particularly the 60 HP ones, are getting like blown up by your opponent's Dragapult, then you can get those back in play again, get them back and get them back in play. Although you have to be careful with that
Yeah,
because
as I
you
say.
just don't can't keep. Yeah, no, I get it. Like this list I'm looking at plays the 70 HP for the most
Yeah.
part, which I get for that very reason. But um, so it's playing two Night Stretcher, one Sacred Ash. I think that's a good a mix that's probably not the go-to. Pretty much like you said, you like Night Stretcher a lot. It is very good. Probably two Night Stretchers to me is kind of the starting place for a generic deck. But I think a Sacred Ash probably should. It's not going to go in every deck, but I think it needs to go in more decks. I just think particularly like this, like the Beedrill. You don't think of it for a rule box deck, but it's a evolution deck with a stage 2 attacker, a stage 1 engine. So just the ability to get those Pokemon back once over the course of the game is nice. And the other thing is, in terms of getting the Pokemon per hand, back in hand, yes, if you Sacred Ash, you might need to play Ultra Ball to get the Pokemon back. But if you use the Sacred Ash late game, then your deck is smaller at that point. So then if you're drawing a bunch of cards just with Serendipity and even Lily's Determination, there's a good chance you'll hit the Pokemon you need as well. So obviously, random is never as good as guaranteed, but you can definitely stack your odds in your favor as the more the game goes on. So I think I think Sacred Ash has it's just a good card to consider for a lot of decks.
Yeah, definitely. Like I was thinking about it, like in a game, how many times do you actually need to recover Pokemon? How many Pokemon really looking to recover? I feel like it's probably not more than three, except maybe in stage 2 decks, especially single prizers there. But yeah, I mean, like as the game goes on, you'll get knocked out multiple times. Your main Pokemon potentially there, and then in that situation, you'll have a smaller deck, and Sacred Dash like really fills your deck. Percentage wise with a lot of cards that you're looking for, which is interesting because obviously the thing that stands out about it is the volume of cards there. It's not the way that it gets them back. The way it gets them back is not usually what's very convenient for you. Also, yeah, with the
Yeah.
decks with like more draws, also thinking about just Dragapult itself. Um, sometimes you're knocking out Pokemon or like you're getting knocked out. Sometimes you're knocking out your own dust storms, things like that. And if
Yeah.
you like say somehow manually evolved a dust storm line, maybe you're bedewing your opponent or something like that, and then you could recover like the full line, and that's pretty good. Maybe you've discarded something else in the game, um, and there's different use cases. It's definitely a card I should probably consider a bit more, and it's a good card.
Yeah, and you talked about how good Night Stretcher is. It's not going to go. It's neither of our lists, although it is underrated potentially in a sense. Everyone knows it's good, but it may be just that much. It may be better than people think. But like the Beedrill deck, you're playing two Night Stretchers, which is I think pretty common. But you're recovering at least one energy usually in the course of the game with two Night Stretchers. So that means you're only recovering say probably one Pokemon over the course of the game. And that, that's running pretty thin, right? If you have potentially one Pokemon recovery over the course of a game, I don't always, it's not a good feeling to me, I gotta say.
Yeah, it can feel kind of scary. With Night Stretcher there, so I do agree with that. That again is why I like to play more Night Stretchers in my decks. But obviously, the times when Night Stretcher doesn't do too much, and Sacred Ash, you were saying like it's a card that does a lot. What it does isn't like necessarily super powerful, but it like saves you deck space as well, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, right. Which gives you flexibility. So yeah, Sacred Ash. That's what I'm putting out there as for my first underrated card. What are you going with your first card?
Yeah, so I'm going to go with a card I've been playing a bit recently. I've been talking about some recently on my channel. The reason I actually started to really like this card and think about this card was because I was playing the build and battle format. Side note, I really do like the build and battle format,
Yeah.
mostly for the Scarlet and Violet era stuff, not the Mega era stuff so much. I think in your experience, you found it similar. I saw you, or not just you, also me some, but struggling with the I'll say the Crocodile deck, but the what's it, Toxtricity is the truest primary thing.
Yeah, look, build battle's fun. That's not what we're talking about here. But I will say, yeah, the mega build and battle decks is just one of four complete 40 card decks. So there's a lot less versatility, a lot less difference in versatility, a lot less opportunity to use cards from the pack. So the older style is I think more fun.
Yeah. Um, but anyways, Morpeko is a card, obviously, as you can see here. Or if you can't, if you're just listening, which by the way, you can just listen, but you can watch this on YouTube as well.
Yep.
But yeah, this is from Twilight Masquerade. So Twilight Masquerade build and battle kit there. That one had some really interesting stuff. I think it's been probably the most fun I've had with Pokemon recently. Not that like I haven't had fun, but it was really cool. And Morpeko was a card that I pulled two copies of, and I was like, I'll slot it in. I used its attack some, which I'll talk about a little bit. I'll just say it now. Pick and stick for one lightning. It does have ways to get stuff into the discard pile with the ability, which is meaningful here. But you attach them to two basic energies from your discard pile to your Pokemon in any way you like. So it can kind of get stuff into the discard, not that much control over it. But you can obviously get that in with like Ultra Ball and Standard or other cards as well. And then this also allows you to attack as like the game goes on. You can power up another Pokemon. In Standard, this probably isn't very good almost ever. I mean, we do see attacks like say Smoochum in Slowking or I don't know. I think that's the main one. We saw TM Turbo Energized pre-rotation. I think I don't know, EX is decent. People are playing it some. And yeah, there's just a few cards like that. But Morphego's attack, probably not very relevant most of the time here. But the ability Snack Seek's actually interesting. As I said, I was playing Build and Battle. This was really really interesting here. And then I've also been playing some Magic the Gathering, and this also comes into it because what the ability here says is what's your turn? You look at the top card of your deck, and then you may discard that card. So you don't draw any cards with this ability, but it is a basic Pokemon. It has 70 HP here and Wonder Tree as well, so pretty good stats for a single prize basic there. But it often searchable, and when it allows you to discard the top card of your deck, this means that you can get into the discard pile again if you want to accelerate it with the attack, or there's something like a Night Stretcher where you can discard the top card of your deck. You can then get it into your hand if you have a Night Stretcher, so it gives you more cards you can access with that. And also, obviously, there are some decks that want stuff in the discard pile. You look at like Serula GX. You look at what was the other one? Oh, the Hide and Seek in the next expansion. We're actually going to talk about a few cards that would get better with the next expansion, I think. But this one kind of does. I don't necessarily expect to see play in Hide and Seek though. But this card lets you discard stuff, which can be useful there. Also, it lets you know what the top card of your deck is. This is actually interesting in Slowking. I don't think it's worth it in Slowking. It seems really funny. If it's not the right card on top, then I guess you discard it, and then you can keep you can use multiple snack seek abilities if you have multiple more Picos, and so you
Yeah.
can do it until you hopefully hit the right card. But I mean, you can only do four, so that's kind of bad, but it is still funny. I want to do that. I have yet to do that, but it is interesting. And then it also lets you know what card you're about to draw. This can be the card you're drawing next turn, or if you're playing a card that's drawing you cards now,
Right.
a card that you're going to draw this turn. And so you can dig essentially more into your deck, which is pretty interesting. This is something that in pre-release / build battle. Also, I mentioned Magic the Gathering. If you didn't know, that game has a lot less draw than Pokemon. A lot less draw, a lot less search. And so then because of that, you are needing to like use these slightly weaker forms of like deck manipulation to improve your draws. And this does help. It's not like crazy good, but it's decent. And the value you're putting, or the commitment to it, is low. It is a bench spot, and it is like a Pokemon you need to get into play, potentially using Buddy Way Poffin. So I was thinking a deck where you
Yeah.
want to do this is actually no. What are your thoughts of this first? And then I've been thinking about this, so I'll say my stuff after.
I mean, first, in terms of the ability, a card like the older Oranguru with the, I don't, you probably know which one with the
Yeah.
ability that lets you switch a card from hand on top of your deck. That would be super awesome if we had to pair that. What do you remember the ability?
It was Primate Wisdom, I believe.
I think that
Yeah.
sounds right. Yeah, because I played that a good bit. Something like that obviously would make this much better and would be played. In terms of
Yeah.
play,
Oh,
this
sorry.
was played.
I do
Go
want to
ahead.
hop in. There's a card like that in standard on a stage one. It actually has, I
Okay.
think, worse stats than a Oranguru as well, which is kind of funny. The Gumshoes, which is interesting. Um, yeah, it knows what you're getting into with a Oranguru, but it doesn't necessarily. I mean, it lets you, I guess, discard a card from your hand, or also know what card you're getting. Yeah.
Right. It would give you knowledge of what you're going to get into hand, right? Which could have value there. In terms of competitive play, it was played at NAIC, but NAIC 2 years ago, in
Oh, wow.
2024, it was only played in 4 decks total. And they are all from 2024 with Miraidon decks, which I guess was using it really and accelerated energy, right? This was before Joltik was a card, so
Oh,
I'm
were they?
guessing that was the case. So it's
Yeah.
essentially
Oh,
not been
so
played.
also
Good.
regarding that, I think that the deck it just does extra search and also extra bench space. So there's essentially no
Yeah.
downside to the card.
Yeah. So yeah, I look. So more. So within that, the attack. Obviously, you can use the attack if you're playing a lightning deck. So, that's not. Although it's any two basic energies in the discard pile. So, obviously the intent is you discard your own energy with the ability to accelerate them. They don't have to be lightning energy. So that's even better. You need lightning to attack with it. But it is a bit limited. Although I will say the price history here, the price has been going up over time. So maybe somebody's catching up on it with some use case for the future. So
Wow, it's up
I
to
don't
18 cents.
exactly, but it was down at like 6 cents. So that's like that's
It's crazy, yeah.
huge inflation, right? There. So like I don't see a huge use. There are a few little niche things. How often do you want to give up the bench space? That's the tricky thing. The good news is it's 70 HP, which, like you said, means Buddy Buddy Poffin, and it's not 60, so you're not getting one shot by Dragapult on the bench. So that's the good news. But I'm not sure how I'm going to get enough value out of it to want to actually put it in a deck.
Yeah, I was thinking about like the things you need there. You mentioned a Rangaroo that lets you get the top card of your deck. There's a card, I don't know if I call it similar to a Rangaroo, but that, gets you the top card of your deck in standard, which is very good, which is Teal Sugar Pontiacs. So I think pairing that with Mupiko is pretty interesting. Additionally, then you can play Area Zero Under Depths there, which allows you to have a bigger bench, and then that's like fine slash even good, right? Getting more Pokemon
Yep.
can be useful for something like Trap Ghost, or for if you want to like Chimp How your Arizona Zero Under Depths or something like that. Certainly, I don't think you're gonna have an issue benching one more Pico there, really. In like a regular random deck, I was like, what if I play as a Dragapult? I was like, wait, no, like I'm not gonna have bench space for that. Probably, maybe I'll try it. We'll see. But it definitely feels a lot better with Arizona Zero Under Depths, I think. And then
Yeah.
also, it's a card that um, you want to have Buddha by Poffin, right? So I feel like those are the things you're looking for. You're looking at like a deck with Ogre Pontiacs, Buddha by Poffin, and Air Zero Underdepths. I was looking around, I was like, oh, a deck with Ogre Pon and Buddha by Poffin. I think Meganium decks run that. I am not. Oh, I searched Mega for Meganium. That's not the play there. But I don't know actually if they run Poffin. Now that I think about it, they probably don't, but that deck is not going to be running Area Zero under depth certainly. So that doesn't work. And then you look at a deck like you're like, oh, Ogerpon and Area Zero Underdepths, which you see in some decks. Most of those are basic only decks, so they're not running Poffin. I mean, I guess Poffin only searches basics, but you know what I mean. They're not running like
Yeah.
Noctowl or Fan Rotom there, where Poffin would be good. And then you look at like what's the last combo? Area Zero Underdepths and Poffin, and I think that's in like you might find that in Dragapult, right? But that's not quite what we're looking for either. So I think that you're looking for a deck kind of like a Terrapagos Terra Box deck with Ogerpon, which I think can exist. I think Wapika would fit really well into a deck like that. I don't know if you'd agree with that, but like you get to draw, you have the bench space. I feel like everything works pretty well there. I haven't done that yet. I am going to do that. I've just kind of started looking into Morpeko recently. This got like inspiration from that build and battle kit there. But the card I think is interesting, and I mean it just if you use this like what 4 or 5 times throughout the course of the game, that feels
Yeah.
relatively reasonable. And that's just some cards you get to kind of choose a little bit. It's not crazy, but again the commitment isn't too high. It is. I mean, you mentioned like the reason to put it in your deck. Is that enough reason? I don't know. But in terms of the commitment to using it in game, it's very low commitment. It's not like it's not like something like Wikidora requires certain energy types, and some Pokemon require more specific search. This is about as general as it gets.
Yeah, I mean, I'm also looking here for under Area Zero Under Depth. The NAC winning deck plays 4 copies of
Yeah,
that. So could you put it in some type of
yeah.
big basic deck or something with Mega Kangaskhan, where you're partly using it to power for the attack, right? You go first turn one, especially like if you're attacking with like a Mega, right?
Yeah.
Then you're okay just powering up turn one, right? If that really gets you going, because that one prize won't matter at the end of the game,
I
assuming
mean,
you're
it
taking 2, 3,
could.
right?
If they,
I
well,
mean, if they
presumably they can boss knock out a two prizer at some point, though.
Well, that's the risk, but you can, but it's a risk you potentially could take, right? If it has enough upside, right? So that you get yourself going, you could do that. That's all I'm saying. I don't know if it could go in a basic deck as well. Um,
Sorry, what do you mean
uh,
like by that?
like a box style deck
Oh, okay, yeah.
for because it accelerates like a bunch of different energies, two different energy types potentially, right? So to whatever you want, right? So therefore, it does give you some versatility with the attack, is if you're using that as well. I'd like to use the attack as well as the ability potentially, right? I'd use the ability and attack situationally with it. So therefore, some box style deck is where I see the best use for it.
Yeah, it definitely seems interesting there. You mentioned with like the winning decks, like these big basic style decks. Um, those aren't running by the way often. Then they're going to be running probably less Pokemon
Right.
search, so it's going to be harder to find. Again, you're not checking
Yes.
all the boxes. There, checking all the boxes seems really hard, but doable. Like I think, and I think this card. I mean, I don't think this card's crazy good. I think if you're playing a deck where it doesn't check all the boxes, that I mentioned earlier, it's probably not worth it. But you could play it as well. Like I think this card's value is just fine, and then the commitment's like okay. It's almost like special energies. Like I'd say Rocky Fighting Energy. I don't think that card's that good, but the downside for playing isn't that bad either. Maybe even the Water Special Energy. That one's like not very good, but people sometimes play it because why not? I'm pretty sure. I'm actually gonna double check on that. Was it? Yeah, Bubbly Water Energy. Yeah, see some play, it's mostly in Crustle, some played in Greninja. But I think it's like you could play it, and the downside's not that bad. So that's kind of similar to this card.
Yeah, maybe a Dragapult Ceruledge deck too, right? If you want to combine those, then you have your Terra for your Air Zero Underdepths. You want some energies in the discard, and it helps control what you're drawing with the Drake So maybe in something like that, I could see it too.
Yeah, that's an interesting idea. But moving on, what's your next card here?
So I had a supporter here, which most of my cards are supporters, and Cassiopeia. So a supporter here, you can only use this card when it's your last card in hand. Then you search your deck for any 2 cards, put them into your hand. So this card has been played once at a competitive event. So essentially an unplayed card. It is less than a penny to buy a copy of it. So
Is it?
it is. Uh, Or no, it's less than 10 cents. Sorry, it's like 5 cents. I apologize.
Yeah, pennies don't
So,
exist anymore, so maybe it is.
that is true too. So yeah, 5 cents is a penny now, I guess. But anyway, so anyway, partly why I like this card is thinking back to my peony days. Because I like to play peony some, which is the supporter that allows you to discard your hand and search your deck for any two trainers. So you didn't so you didn't have to be the last card in hand, but essentially it you discard your hand though. So it's kind of similar that way. Then you search for two trainers, not any two cards, but this format did have Evolution Incense, so you could get a basic Pokemon into your hand through. You grab the Evo Incense and get an Evolution Pokemon. You could use Quick Ball was in format to get a plus another card you discard to do that. So it kind of similar. This is better than Peony. Like I said, I played Peony. Cassiopeia is better because it gets you two cards, not two trainers. So you're not using a trainer to get the card you need. You're getting the card you need directly. So very good there. It's worse than Peony because you have to have no. It has to be the last card in hand. But obviously we can discard cards from hand. So you have your you have to have enough items like Ultra Ball to thin your hand out. So that's the question. I certainly would have liked to have say quick ball in format as well. So you discard a nice discard one option as well as the discard two. Because Pokemon Search is always good anyway. So you need items to thin your hand down, but those are good cards anyway. Like Ultra Ball is one of the best cards in the game. So you have those options to get rid of cards. Getting any two cards in hand it's a super awesome thing to do, right? It's just we don't obviously you're using your supporter for turns, so that's the question. But getting two cards, right? Any special energies, whatever evolution you need, so your ability to just make your turn happen exactly the way you want it, very good there.
Yeah, definitely can. I mean, if you get to play this card, it's good. First of all, I do want to say this card's like super cool. I haven't played it. I legitimately kind of forgot about it until I saw it with a list in Japan. I will mention here. I don't think we'll spend much time on this, but this card there's a new it works very well with the new Pokemon, the Silvally, which is stage one. That if you have no cards in hand, you can search for any supporter card. And I think that card's sick. I think it's honestly all right. And it's super good with this card here. It's like so good. But Cassiopeia is, I mean, it's hard to use. You said you can get your hand down with cards like Ultra Ball. What are the other cards like Ultra Ball that aren't Ultra
Yeah, is that
Ball?
the problem? Because I'm even looking at an older list that which was Nest Ball and format at the time. So really, Ultra Ball was the only discard card item I think in the deck. So that part's not so good. I think what I'd play it with is I'd play it with Secret Box,
Yeah.
right? Because then I get the three cards. I can attach my tool. I can play my stadium, and I make sure it's an item that I can play, and then you know and I support her. So I'm kind of, and I can, if I need one or like one less card in hand because of what I get, I can just not fill all four card slots I draw or something. So I have wiggle room with that. So that's a way Secret Box make this happen. But of course, you can't use your Team Rocket's Petrol to get Secret Box because then it doesn't do any good. But if the other option is if you have we with supporters we do have Meowth EX, so you could use Meowth, assuming you have the right cards in hand to empty your hand out. Meowth EX to get any two cards in deck is very good, right? But it is that getting your cards to know hand size, and the game's not in the best place to make that happen. I will say that's the unfortunate part.
Yeah, there's the new stadium card Prism Tower. From
Yeah.
Chaos Rising that lets you discard two, draw one. I haven't played with Prism Town much at all. I'd love to hear people's thoughts on that card in the comment section. I haven't seen it much either. I saw people talking about some. I saw someone play it in Team Rockets. I was playing against that, and it seemed mediocre in that deck. I mean, I can see some value for it, but I mean, Cassiopeia is cool. Also, with the Secret Box thing, I do want to say, like, if you Secret Box, that's often just like enough. I don't know if you need another
Yeah,
like more stuff off of that. And in that
that's true.
situation, then you're mostly just like I could see you doing that legitimately. And every time you secret box, you can almost certainly Cassiopeia. That being said, like, I feel like if you get Secret Box, you're probably fine. I don't know. I mean, it's definitely good to get. I mean, essentially, like, I don't know, saying one supporter turns into like one card, maybe a bit more than the value of one card. But getting any two cards is going to be a bit better there, and you also don't need to reveal
Yeah.
them because they're any two cards. So that's like cool, but I think it's more cool than like good. It's more like win more, which isn't really what you're looking for. Um,
No.
yeah,
Another spot is if you use like Enzorark as your engine, right? Then you're discarding one to draw two. You're getting more cards in hand, but you're controlling particularly you're controlling between even and odd the number of cards, which with Ultra Ball is very important. So something like that is good. Obviously, what you'd like for this, and you'll remember the cards, but the older cards that you searches for evolutions, right? There was one that you discarded two, search for an evolution, one that discarded three, a bit basics, right, with an ability, then look for an evolution. So those cards with the Cassiopeia would be awesome if we had one of those cards in format.
wait, sorry, what are these cards?
It was a way to thin down.
Oh, the
You know,
Galarian Meowth and the Dust Skull, which is banned. Yeah,
yes, right. Back in the days of the
the
old favorite,
Beedrill and the
the
silly stupid stuff. Yeah, Mustard.
yeah,
Yeah. Like they search for their specific evolutions, not general evolutions. Their
right,
abilities
yeah,
were
no, right,
not. I guess Duskull's
yeah,
ability
so
isn't good. Galarian's Meowth's ability was.
right, yeah. So Galarian Meowth that you would discard, was that discard three or two? I don't
That one
remember.
was two. Yeah.
You discarded two, and then you looked for a card that evolved from Galarian Meowth, but you didn't have to have the Galarian Meowth. You didn't have to play Galarian Meowth. I mean, the evolution in your deck.
Yeah.
It gave you the opportunity to discard two cards anytime you wanted to. So, which was nice. So something like that would be better for Cassiopeia. So yes, um, if they reprinted Quick Ball, then that's really what it needs. A card like Quick Ball, a card that you discard one card is what you need, right? Or Earth and Vessel, right?
Yeah.
That you discarded one to search for two, right? Two energies.
Yeah, even if you could play four, or I mean, play eight Ultra Ball, I think that might be fine. You mentioned like the uneven cards and stuff like that. And
Mm,
yeah, definitely having to discard one option is good, but I think even like just more discard, I mean, there's not that much in standard. There's some, but
yeah,
it's not crazy. And then also I do want to say that I actually just thought about this with Morpeko as you were talking about Galarian Meowth there. This is interesting as well. This is not related to Cassiopeia, but this is a card. So the Morpeko, you get to see the top card of your deck. Sometimes it's like, oh, I don't want that card now, but I want it at some point, like boss or something.
yeah,
And so you could do some effect that shuffles your deck to then like get a different card that's potentially better and then not lose that card, which is
right.
interesting. Kind of that's more resources you're spending. You're playing Poffin or something like that. But you could do some really interesting sequencing things to really have a lot of control over things. But yeah, Cassiopeia, I do think. So, do you think it's going to be? Or how good do you think the new? This is I'd say off track, but maybe it's not. The new
Good.
Silvally just discarding or not? Sorry, not discarding. Searching for any supporter if you have no cards in hand. Obviously, Cassiopeia would be really good with that. But do you think that Silvally is like worth anything really? Like it's worth playing?
So the Sylvie, and that's an evolution, right?
Yeah, it's a stage one. Yeah, you could pull it up on
Stage.
Limitless, the translated. Yeah.
Okay, so it's a stage one. I think yes.
Oh, also, I do want
I
to
think that
mention, sorry with that, sorry to cut you
yeah.
off, but the basic, so the basic is colorless, but is not searchable off of Fan Rotom as well, which kind of sucks
Okay, so
in standard.
yeah. So I think the new yeah, no, I think the new card will be good. What Sylvalla you said?
Yeah, again, you can only use it if you have no cards in hand. So
Yeah, so that's the tricky part, but it'll be I don't know. It might just be a fun card, right? It might
yeah,
not be a good card. That's the problem. Um, yeah, it runs into the same problem as the Cassiopeia, obviously.
yeah. But obviously, if you solved it for the Silvally, you've solved it for Cassiopeia as well. But yeah, so
Right.
overall, I think the card is super cool. I'd love to. I mean, I want to play with it more. Certainly, I mean, I don't play that much expanded and live, but I might want to play with some of these cards in expanded. Some of them, obviously don't have quite the right tools, but with more support, they can be really good.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, right. Expanded, you can build a deck that will hit this criteria pretty consistently. So that's certainly an option.
Yeah, as far as I'm aware, Cassiopeia is not played in expanded though. I don't think. Maybe it's played a little. I don't remember. I'm certainly no expanded expert. Again, there aren't really many, but yeah, definitely a fun card. But then I guess I'll move on to my next card here, which is Mandibuzz from White Flare. This card is pretty cool. Not played too much. It's played sometimes in control decks. Currently, in stand control is not. I mean, it's not really played very much. I don't know how good it is. Well, I mean, you see like pseudo control stuff. You see, I mean, even just like with Dragapult and against Dragapult, you see like crushing hammers. You see Badoo. You see, I mean, even moving Pokemon through the use of just knocking him out through like bench damage or targeting with the boss and stuff like that. But anyways, you got Mandibuzz here. This Pokemon is a card with an ability look for prey. It's a stage 1 as well. It
Yep.
says once during your turn, you can use this ability. Your opponent reveals their hand and then puts a basic. Then you can put a basic. Or sorry, you have to. So if they have one, you have to do
Right.
this. Basic Pokemon 70 HP or less from there onto their bench. You can only use this if they do not have a full bench. So and if they have cards in hand as well, I suppose. But you
Right.
don't get to look at their hand if they do have a full bench, which is kind of annoying. And you're not going to hit stuff all that often. But I mean, a lot of the time, the reason you don't hit stuff is because they are just benching the Pokemon. So if you're playing a deck like Dragapult, then they might not want to bench some of their Pokemon, especially some of the really low HP ones, which you might see like a 60 HP Dunsparce, which could be cool. You're like, yeah, I'll just hold off on that, and then I guess like Pulled or something. Um, or Duskull, something like that. And Mandibuzz can legitimately be good. I mean, I don't think this card is amazing, but it's seen very little play, and I think it's better than that.
I mean, what I first come to mind when you said this card was Erica's Invitation, which is a control deck. I mean, Mandibuzz was played twice in competitive events at Pidgeot control decks, which that's kind of obviously Erica's Invitation was a control card. It certainly was like a block Snorlax. That's where your opponent revealed the hand. You put a basic you found there onto the bench, and you shifted it, and it switched into the active spot. So it acted as a gusting as well, which made it better than the Mandibuzz, but it was using your supporter for turn, and it also allowed you to put any basic, not just it wasn't restricted to 70 HP or less. So it's a little different. But obviously, if you're playing a control deck of some type, like a we get into debates of terminology, but I'm going to call it a stall deck at the moment. You can call it what you want later, but something where you're looking to get something trapped in the active. This gets you halfway there. It gets it onto the bench, something your opponent doesn't want to play. Particularly if they know you're a control deck, they don't want to. You're going to be careful what they bench. So it's a nice way to do it. Gust it up, and then you play a boss, get in the active. If you are playing a control deck, you want the hand knowledge. So even if you can't use it, unfortunately, if their bench is full. But even if you, and of course, you do have to bench something if it's there, but it does give you hand knowledge too. So that's a plus as well. But it is probably better at this point for if you're playing like Dragapult, Dusknoir, or something like that, where you're doing spread damage, you're getting damage spread around somehow like that, then you're getting low HP Pokemon into play and taking out. So you're getting some extra prizes is what it does. So I would think, if you're leaning into like a Dragapult Dusknoir line, maybe you put down you only need a 1/1 line in your deck, so because you only need one copy in play, and so it's not a ton of deck space, so you can afford the one deck slot, the one bench spot, and so I definitely see value from the card in Dragapult, which is not a terrible deck, I would say.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it might be terrible for other reasons, but yeah.
Well, yeah, differently, yeah.
Yeah, Bandivise is it's interesting, and honestly, the hand knowledge, like I think that's really good, I guess. I mean, it's something that is really nice. It's kind of weird. You're looking for this card with the hand knowledge specifically. I'd say at a more middle skill level, which is admittedly where
Yeah.
I'd say most people who like, watch content and play the game a good amount. Not like there's a lot of people who are like newer and more casual, but like kind of I'd say just like normal players is kind of what I'd say, where
Yeah.
you can make use of your opponent's hand. If you're like a brand new player or like very new, it doesn't really matter what your opponent's doing. You're kind of just doing your own thing. And then if you're like, in some ways if you're super good as well, or you could be like really good at reading what's in your opponent's hand.
Yeah.
But I mean, even then, his hand knowledge is still going to be good. So, this is definitely a card where being able to make good use of knowing what's your opponent's hand is nice. You mentioned you don't want to use this multiple times a turn, which I think is true, but you can, one, bench multiple Pokemon, which seems unlikely that you want to do. But two, or unlikely that you need to do it certainly, but two, you can also
Yeah.
get you can see your opponent's hand, and then you can play a card like Judge, and then you can see their hand again, which is like funny. I don't know if it's really worth it, but it is funny. It might be good, like legitimately. I don't know what happens if their hand is now not good for you, but because you're not going to Judge again. But I mean, I think Mandibuzz has a bunch of different things it does. The trapping, the sniping, and the hand knowledge. I think all those are pretty good. I don't think this card is broken, but I think it should be played. I mean, you mentioned in Polt, and like Polt's obviously it's so good, and people experiment a lot with Polt, so I'm kind of surprised that people haven't done that so far.
Yeah, and I was looking at under City League decks list. It didn't appear in any City League deck list either, and I would have expected, people mess around more there than the competitive tournaments, more competitive side we see for the international tournaments, right? Because City Leagues are a bit more new cards, try them out thing too. So surprised by that. I think yeah, I'm looking forward to. I think I'm going to give it a go with some type of Dragapult build.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. A lot of these are like, oh yeah, maybe just like play in Dragapult. Because Dragapult's really good and also does lots of different things. So, I mean,
Yeah.
as much as Dragapult is a bit of a pain being too good, it does a bunch of different things that has cool synergy as well. And we see different builds. But what's your next card that helps Dragapult? Or maybe not.
Well, I mean, in one sense, everything can. This one's not so much. This is counter gain, a trainer card. I was going to say an item card. It's not. It's a tool card, which aren't items now,
Formerly in
formerly known. But this one actually doesn't say item on it either. So
well, the
because
older ones, the older print does.
that's true. That's true. So, if it's a tool, if you have more prize cards remaining than your opponent, then the attacks used by this Pokemon cost one less. It's certainly been played some, not a lot, like three times in NEIC. It's been played historically. I know I played it in the past. Actually, there's a lot of some Frostlass Monkey Dory, everybody's favorite deck there, and some different things. But also, this was a reprint, so there's also a bunch of older decks lists that are not relevant to today's conversation. But getting energies in play is very important, right? You've got to, assuming you're getting knocked out, you've got to. There are a few decks that attack for one energy, but most decks either attack for two or three energies. Now it's a colorless less, so you can't use it to like power up your Dragapult's attack because it's two different colored energies there. But a lot of attacks have colorless energy. Crispin is probably generally better at getting, gets an extra energy in play, and you get to control the type of energy. So as long as it's too different, you still generally you need a colorless the attack cost in that you have to, unless it's like a dragon type Pokemon. If it's like two grass energies, for instance, you have to have that other non-grass energy. It's a little tricky, right? You already have to have that second grass energy in hand, so that's a little less likely there. But it's meant for multi-type decks. Crispin, counter gain, similar, lets you do it, but it's a tool. I guess I usually think it's single prize decks because you're falling those decks, you're getting knocked out more turns, you're falling behind more frequently in those games. The other thing I thought about as we're kind of prepping for this, or I hadn't really considered counter gain for, is those Pokemon with three attack costs, with one where it's a color plus two colorless, as you said, because I can Crispin and counter gain to get three energies on, because there are good Pokemon in format that do take three energies, but to be able to power up as one turn is very problematic, I would say. A lot of times you have to use something like Energy Switch, right, with Ogerpon or something, and that's I always feel like relying on Energy Switch just always feels sketchy to me. That's kind of my experience with it. So having counter gain and Crispin as a way to get three energies on instantly to an attack is a really nice option to have as well. So I think counter gain, useful card in a lot of situations.
Yeah, you need to be down on prizes. I think you said it,
Yes.
but it definitely something. I mean, it's definitely something. I think this card's really good, and like when you talk about a lot of times, you can almost like forget you to be down on prizes, or you can really focus in on. I
Yeah.
think there's some people who are like this card like never does anything. Some people that like this card is like super amazing all the time. I would say this card. I mean, if you played Sparkling Crystal is super good. Yes, it is an energy of a type, but it is also your ace spec. And if you play
Right.
a deck with it, you're like, wow, Sparkling Crystal is like the backbone of this deck, maybe. And yeah, Counter Gain does something similar. I will say, and I've heard people like when I've talked about this card some because pre-rotation saw a pretty reasonable amount of play. I'd say it was still underrated, but with Arven and also Town Store there, it was
Yeah.
very it just like it was really easy to search, essentially free to search. So we're not in that situation now. We need to use something like Noctowl or Team Rocket's Petrol, which like then those don't feel super good because I mean you mentioned Crispin and Crispin's gonna be better a bunch of the time, but you can still support it with this as well. So there are still reasons to be playing this card, but yeah, I think the fact that you can support it with it is super nice there. This in the control style deck is also super good. It can allow you to get an extra
Yeah.
attachment essentially in a turn, which is super cool. And again, there are a bunch of Pokemon that this works decently with. Honestly, a lot of the Pokemon like Crispin works with, Countergate works with as well. I don't think Countergate is quite as good as Crispin, but I think it's on a similar-ish level. And again, people just don't really play it that much. I mean, I think people forget about it. It's really good at times.
Yeah, and like Mega Kangaskhan, which is a pretty good Pokemon there. If you have which is three colors energies, you can't power it up in one turn. We were talking how earlier about how there's people play Crispin with Mega Kangaskhan and somehow are trying to get the pull the attack off one turn. Maybe you can, but if you have counter gain, and you use Mega Kangaskhan as your engine, but also, if the 200 damage is not a bad number anyway, and your HP is nice and high, so having that ability to power up something like a Mega Kangaskhan one turn is quite nice. And hey, Pheasantipede EX, I know we don't think about it for the attack, but 100 to bite bench snipe can win you games too. So the ability to pull off something like that, if you're, of course, behind on prizes, is the one thing. But nice option for decks with three energy attackers that lean into the colorless.
Yeah, another thing related to rotation as well, I think, Counter Catcher was a really good card. Obviously
Yeah.
similar, I mean, literally similar name, where, playing from behind was really good, but I mean, still with Dragapult, you can play from behind. Look at Dusknoir, that really helps you
Yeah.
control prizing stuff. So, yeah, I mean, this card is having to play down on prizes can be a pain, but it isn't like a super big issue, I would not say. Yeah, I mean, just a card that I think is underrated, not broken. But I mean, I'm looking on Slowking and I'm like, yeah, Slowking, that seems really good. Not Slowking. I don't think Slowking. Slowking's decent. It's funny, and it can be really good. But I feel like counter game. Let me see what's the average plays here. Um, I don't see it. I guess I'll control F, and if it's not here, you'll hear a nice beep for all the
Okay.
people listening. Not you, Uncommon Fossil. Um,
Okay. Good.
it is. Oh yeah, okay. So it's played in 1 out of 50 decks or so. So 0.02 plays. So that's not. I mean, like I feel it's good here. This deck is going to be behind a lot because it's kind of bad. And also it's not bad. Let me just, but it can work really badly. And having the energy, getting energy on is an issue. Getting the energy, like you can use the colorless energy. Like it just fits super well there. It's not like a slam dunk home run type of card necessarily. I mean, it fits really well, and I feel like it would probably make sense to go in at least as a one of in most Slowking lists. I could even see it higher because like the deck legitimately struggles with energies. It has so many moving pieces, stuff that kind of smooths that out a little bit, especially when you end up behind a lot. I feel like it should be there.
Yeah, and I'm looking here. There's like a Team Rocket's Mewtwo deck. If you're going to attack with Team Rocket's
Yeah.
Mewtwo, especially with Lily's Clefairy to get the knockout on that, you get two energies off your Team Rocket's attachment. You need that third energy, counter gain, boom, you get there. So, it's got value in something like that too.
Yeah, there you could use energy switch. I mean, there are energy switch things you can do.
Yeah.
They have some overlap, but I mean, energy switch can lead to some really cool plays. But honestly, is clunky. You need to play things in certain orders and have things kind of set up the right way. Counting, you can just kind of stick it on a Pokemon and kind of forget about it, and like leave it there until you need it, and just get some value or not. Like, I feel like there's a lot of times where I'm like, oh, okay, well I have an energy switch. Well, I guess I'm gonna discard my hand or something, or like shuffle them back in with Lilies because I don't have the energy. And the counter game just feels so much nicer there. Definitely like a not broken card. No, honestly, it can be a broken card. Like you can. I mean, okay, this isn't something you should do. I played a Rotom deck, and that deck played 4 counter gain, and it played 3 energies. Um,
Yeah.
that was legitimately the most stressful deck I've ever played. It was like absurd. It was not very good. Actually, no, it was all right. Like people were like, "Why do you play 3 energies in the deck?" And I was like, "Well, it's because." Um, so, anyways, the deck is funny. And you should check that video out if you haven't seen it. It's something, but counter gain can be crazy, like legitimately so good.
Okay, this is the Rotom with a Rotom deck with Rotom EX for the multiple
Yeah,
tools.
yeah, where you're attacking with a
Okay,
single
so,
prizer, but using the EX for the ability. Yeah, you could double
right, and
counter gain. You could double counter gain to attack.
right, two counter gains and away you go. So it's kind of fun there. Yeah. Okay, good. All right, so yeah, so counter gain. So what is your next card that underrated card?
Yeah, next card I have here. This might be my final card we'll talk about. For me,
Yeah.
we'll see. This card is probably my favorite card of any card in Standard. Potentially, it's kind of trash, but it's not just trash. I've talked about it a bunch, and it's Cinderace here. It's from Mega Evolution. This card sees some play from time to time. Yeah, I just scrolled down and there wasn't anything there, but it sees some play. Apparently, someone played it with Frost last. That seems bad. I'm not gonna lie, but yeah, you can play Cinderace here in some different decks,
Yep.
honestly. It has the ability explosiveness that, because it's a stage 2, but you can start it in the as you're active when you're setting up. Uncommon Fossil, you were talking to me about this before, and you're saying because you can only start in the
Yeah.
active, if you draw it off of your opponent's mulligans, then you can't play it, so that's a bit of a downside there.
Right.
But it has the upside of letting you decide to mulligan if it is your only basic, which is kind of cool. The more basics you play, you can play this as a 4 if it's played as a 4, and like every deck it's played in, I'm pretty sure. And in that situation, you want to play as few other basics as you can to have the highest odds of starting Cinderace, and you're probably going to mulligan a lot more than your opponent, which is actually kind of bad because you're giving him more cards. But this card does have free
Yeah.
retreat. It's good to start. It has 160 HP for a single prizer. That's good. And then it has the attack Turbo Flare for 1 colorless, does 50. Search deck for 3 basic energy, up to 3 basic energy. Attachment to your bench Pokemon in any way like, then shuffle your deck. We were talking about, you're talking about Morpeko being potentially an attack option. They're not super good there. The 6 colors more energy. It's from the deck. It does some damage. It's colorless. It has free retreat and it has more HP. This card, I talked about this on a recent video, but this is the card because I play this card some in person, and this is the card sometimes you get a reaction of, wait, I can't believe that card does that, and I've never seen that card before. Cinderace is the card that I get that reaction from the most. It's legitimately really good when you start it. Like we talk about like TM Turbo Energized pre-rotation was decent. It was not bad. Cinderace accelerates more energies. It does more damage, and it does damage. The other one doesn't do damage, so it can like knock out a Bidoof, which could actually be bad
Right.
if your opponent like stamps you, but presumably it's good. And applies like okay pressure. 50 is gonna two shot like Dreefies into Dracloaks. It also two shots to Dracloaks, so that's like kind of cool. It's not like amazing, but 50 damage, you'll take it. I guess you could also get Monkey Dorid, but um, it's like the 50 damage is better to do than not doing 50 damage, I would still say.
Yeah.
And like honestly, the 160 HP is quite good. Like, it's not like crazy, but people are talking about the new Mew EX, which isn't good, I don't think, unfortunately. I think it's okay. I'm super stoked to play it,
Well.
but that is 160 HP. It's a 2 prizer, and like Meowth EX is 170, so this is pretty good.
Yeah. I think the Meowth is better than the new
But
Mew is better than the Cinderace.
I don't
But
know. I think the new Mew EX is really fun. We've spent a whole podcast talking about it, but most of the
yeah.
use cases of the Mew EX are worse than just using the other card.
All right. So let me ask you a question. So when you played Cinderace, how many basic Pokemon do you have in the deck?
I'm looking at 3 or
Just or
4.
about 3 or
You
4.
could be like kind of stupid and just run 1.
Okay.
There was a deck where I ran. This was pre-rotation, so it ran 4 copies of Cinderace, also 4 copies of the card Snorlax Doll. Snorlax Doll
Right.
doesn't do anything except you can start it essentially. Well, it does something, but it's super bad. But
Yeah.
and then I ran 1 Tatsugiri EX. And I ran a bunch of Pokemon, like a bunch of stage 2s. I think it
Yep.
was Hydreigon Dusknoir deck, and it was really funny. It was pretty bad. You could like control mulligans, but normally when you're playing this, you are going to want to I'd say you're running like 3 or 4 basics. That's what I've seen in a lot of lists. I'm
Okay.
scrolling around. You might be a little more. This one is running. I'm looking at a list. It's running 4. It's an Archaludon list. It's running 4 Duraludons and a Relicanth.
Yeah.
Funny enough, everyone's 2 different Archaludons and Archaludon EX, which is funny. This one runs Psyduck. I would not play a card like Psyduck in this deck because like Psyduck's not that good. It's okay. It's a decent card, but it's like situational, and you don't want to run too many basics if you can avoid it. I'm looking at like a basic box deck. The card's weird because yeah, so this one runs a bunch of basics, right? It is a basic box stack. It's weird because
Mhm.
Cinderace works best with big basics and different ones because you can power up different Pokemon really easily. Honestly, like
Yeah.
you talked about the three energy, and you can get three energy when you accelerate, and then you can also attach. So it's like it's like a lot of energy. It's one less than Joltik. Joltik honestly like gets probably more than you need. Cinderace is probably what you're looking for. There's a lot of three energy attackers, so Cinderace works quite well for that. I see this deck which runs it's Hydreigon EX and Zoroark. You know, you get some weird stuff with it, but you're looking for not too many basics. Certainly, so I'm looking around. This one's running, I think it's 11. Like I would play for Cinderace, and if you're really looking to use Cinderace the best that it can be used, actually play it more than not. I'd be looking
Yeah.
at like three or four basics. You
Okay.
can certainly pick that number up a little bit, but the more you basics you play, the less likely you are to start Cinderace.
Yeah, so it's because it's not in any international competitive decks, this Cinderace, shockingly. So,
Yeah.
uh, excelling three basic energy of any type for your deck is very good. So, I mean, I'm looking at the list, like the Japanese, the City League decks. Like, I don't one's on our Caledon list,
Yeah.
which only plays metal energy. You accelerate to yourself, so I don't quite get that one.
Yeah.
I gotta say,
No, I've
but
seen that
maybe
deck.
the
I don't think it's very good, but I've seen it.
I mean, I don't mind the Arcalion with Relicanth. That's fun. I just don't know what the Cinderace. I find that one tough. I guess you attack with that turn one, and but anyway, and then like there's a Crustal deck. I see it in for the City League, and I get that because obviously you
Oh, Crustal
powering up the
Fortress
Crustal.
EX.
Well, the Fortress EX was better, obviously, but it's rotated unfortunately because it was too good. That's the one that knocks itself out to accelerate some energies. It was never very good. It was
Yeah.
fun in my book, but it wasn't good. I acknowledge that. But like the Crustal deck has like 10 other basic Pokemon or maybe more. So I don't get how you're playing. I don't know when you're getting Cinderace in play, but anyway. So so the question is when can you actually utilize it, right? It's a fun thing, as you said. You like it, it's fun. The quality in terms of strength of it, that's where I think it's a little questionable.
Yeah, obviously these cards are pretty gimmicky. We have seen cards like this in the past that have been good though. There
Yeah.
was a Luxray. That card was
Yep.
I clicked on the wrong card. That card was it was okay, I guess. This also played with Kyurem some. It wasn't super good, but it was okay. I think the Kyurem deck played like tons of basic energies, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, it played like 20 something basic energies. That deck wasn't super good. It was funny though. But then there was Talonflame. Talonflame. So are you familiar with this card?
I don't go ahead. I'm not
Okay.
sure
So this
right
is
now.
Talonflame Flame from Steam Siege. This card has the same, essentially the same ability. It does an attack for
Yep.
one colorless that does 40. You search for two cards, put them into your hand. And this card saw, it also has For Your Treat. I think all the cards like this have had For Your Treat. And it saw play specifically mostly with Greninja Break. Probably saw some play with Gardevoir as well, Gardevoir GX. But I mean, this card was decent. Here you're looking at it as, and you're running like four basics normally. Um, and sorry, I'm looking at this list, and whenever I look at random lists, I always get distracted. But you're running. Oh, if this was running like three basics. You want to start it. It's pretty good, and yeah, then you're just kind of setting up your board behind it, and that was legitimately good. Talonflame. I don't know how often it was played in Greninja. I think it was. I think it was played more than it wasn't. Um, I think it was the like default there, but definitely like a legitimately competitively decent card. So we have seen cards like this. Yeah, this was quite a while ago, but it was just
Yeah.
like 10 years ago, something like that. But this saw play, like saw actual play, a very similar card. So I think like there is some room for Cinderace to see play, and yeah, I mean I think that format was kind of fast or like kind of controlly, kind of like this format. Not the same, but like it's not like this current standard is like way faster and your decks like can't ever compete. So I think Cinderace is okay.
Yeah. First, it came in the deck that finished second at Worlds, I believe. So pretty good there. Cinderace, I mean the Talonflame. Sorry.
Yeah.
So for the style, but the Talonflame, you search for any two cards. I think I'd take that over necessarily three energies. I think it's a little bit better.
I don't
So,
know. I think it's not. I think because you like get the
okay.
value. I mean, opponent can boss knock you out, but they can't just like hit you with a hand reception supporter, and then you like lose everything you just had.
That's
So,
true. All right. Do you want to? Shall I do one more card, or we want to?
yeah, I'd say maybe do one more, wrapping it up here, with a. Is the last card fun?
Well, you want Lacey or Naveen? I guess.
I don't know. We
Or
could
you want
go
to do
through
one
our
of yours?
last. Well, let's
Or you want
quickly
to do
go through
Tortuga?
ours. Let's go through our last ones relatively quickly here. I'll talk about Tortuga, I
Okay.
guess, some because it's awesome. Tortuga is not super good, but it's really fun. It's from Black Bolt here. Does for a stage 1 30 for 1 water for each item near your opponent's discard pile. This can do a lot of damage here.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's pretty nice. It is a fossil evolution though, which makes it kind of bad. I played a lot with Cinderace here. This card again can do legitimately really good damage, but also it involves more fossil, which is like bad. So
Yeah.
you can't search the basic fossils, except that you can now with the new stadium coming out in the next set. So I think Tortuga, I think right now in Standard it's a little underrated. It's okay, and people don't really play it. With the next set, I haven't heard too much talk about it. I think it's legitimately gonna be competitively viable. Like I think Tortuga will be a decent card. Maybe paired with Mega Frostlass, maybe paired with Mega Stormy and Mega Frostlass. I'm not exactly sure. There are some different routes you could go down with Tortuga, but I think it's a pretty decent card there. And then I'll move on to my next card, and then you can talk about your two there.
Okay.
I have Explorer's Guidance as well. I think Explorer's Guidance is super good. Look at the top 6, discard. You get to, and you discard the rest. So
Yeah.
this allows you to look at 6 cards. So it's not drawing 6, but it is seeing 6, and you can draw. You do get 2. Oftentimes you're looking for a few specific cards, or lots of cards you like don't need at that specific time. You have more than you need them. They're like more situational, whatever. This is the case for like every deck in the game, to be honest. So yes, bidding for cards from your deck isn't super fun. I think it works well though if you're playing high counts of Night Stretcher, where then those cards you can bin, you can like find as well. So you can take more than 2 cards from that essentially. And yeah, I mean, it just sees 6 cards, which is pretty good for a supporter in standard.
Yeah.
There's a regular draw supporter. We see Lose Determination as the best supporter in the game, certainly best draw supporter in the game, or setup supporter there. And then you also see nothing. I don't know. You have like Judge. That's seeing less cards. Lily
Yeah.
sometimes sees less cards than Explorer's Guidance as well in the late game. And then you also look at like the search supporters, but those pretty much just search Pokemon. Some search like special engines and things like that as well. So they're like okay, but they are somewhat limited in what they do. Safe Max Code Breaking, I guess, searches any 2 cards, but also doesn't get either of them into your hand. So if you're like, sometimes it's like a turn 1 Safe Max Code Breaking and then pass, which is pretty bad. So Explorer's Guidance, I think, is pretty well rounded in what it does. It definitely has legitimate flaws, but it is good. I think it is. Oh, also, you mentioned this. You kind of alluded to this earlier in the podcast. It was played with Ancient Pox decks before. Post-Rotation is not really played very much, though. And so it's good. It's not crazy good, I wouldn't say, but I'd say it's like a tier 2 supporter. I'd say it might be the best of tier 2 supporters. I certainly think it belongs in that same group of cards that you find. Something like Dawn, Hilda, Brock Scouting, Cyrano. I think those are all similar power level to Explorer's Guidance. I do think Explorer's Guidance is probably better than those. If most people probably wouldn't say that, but it's worth playing. It's decent and yeah, legitimately good. Like honestly, this card is good. I've talked about it a lot on this channel. That's why I'm kind of I saved it till the end, but yeah, it's really good.
Yeah, you think it's bottom half of top 10. I think if I was playing it,
Actually,
I
we
would
talked about
put
this
it.
earlier. I think it's top half of the top 10.
All right,
But
that's a push. I won't push back on that, but I think I would want to use it in something like Sarah Ledge or Caledon, where I take advantage of the discarding as well.
yeah.
I gotta say, but yeah, and definitely it was very good. Before it's less strong now, but certainly should not be forgotten like it is for sure. So I have two other cards, both supporters here. Lacey, which doesn't really see play, but it does have value. I think you shuffle your hand into your deck, you draw 4. If your opponent has 3 or fewer cards remaining, it draws 8
Yeah,
instead. So
prize
it's kind
cards.
of the prize cards. Sorry, thank you. It's kind of the mirror of Lily's determination. Lily's determination is probably the best supporter in the game, I would think. it's not the mirror in that it's the worst supporter in the game, but it's the mirror in that it gets you more cards late game, right? Lily's is better because first off, it does 8 or 6. This one does 8 or 4. That makes it worse. And you want something to help you set up early, which Lacey is better late game. But the ability to get 8 cards late game is good. So I do think this has a place in decks, particularly if you have the ability to choose your supporters, which everyone does with Meowth EX, and then if you have some other way to get supporters. Certainly, if you're like a Pokegear 3.0 deck, late game Lacey for 8 cards is gonna be your best play, right? Lose termination early for 8 is awesome. So late game Lacey's for 8 is it's really good too.
Yeah, it is good. I will say, like, oftentimes I talk about shuffling a hand to your deck. I'm like, well, you see a bunch of new cards. Um,
Yeah,
with this, you can definitely see some of the cards you've seen before that you might not really be looking for. In
yeah,
this case, I guess thinning would be a more important thing there. But then also, one, obviously, the bad side of it, like the less card draw, is only 4. Shuffle draw 4 is not very good. I mean,
yeah.
Judge is certainly a
No.
decent card and is played to draw cards, but it's also played to disrupt mostly, and so that's a bit disappointing. And also, I'd say the most important turns of the game are the early ones to like actually set up. I mean, obviously well, I suppose you could say the most important turn is the last turn where you like win, but you obviously need to get there and you need to set up some. This is pretty bad when you're trying to set up, and so it's also your opponent needs to be doing stuff. I suppose they don't know you're playing this, and if they're just not knocking you out, then that's fine for you as well, probably. But this card is like, I mean, it's okay. I would agree it's still underrated. It ultimately is drawing you a bunch of cards at the point of the game in which drawing a ton of cards isn't usually a huge thing. You're often just digging for boss, but it does help you dig for that, or certain win cons some. And your opponent having 3 or 4 prizes remaining doesn't mean they're going to win on their next turn either necessarily.
Right. I mean, it hasn't. It's seen a little bit of play. Like I see it like in a Crustal Cornerstone Mask Ogre Pond that Sandra put together. Right.
Yep.
You can see it in a deck like that. Right, where you're trying to do a control deck where you're giving up prizes but very slowly, and then eventually by the time they've taken so that you may get to 3 prizes, but then you've got things set up that your win conditions there. So I think it's got a place. Yeah, it's not the best card, but it's certainly I think it deserves consideration. Is what I'll say. And then the last card here, which is actually, I think, a better card than Lacey, is Naveen. You draw till you have 5 cards in hand. That's not great, but before drawing cards, you can discard any of the cards from your hand. So you have your cards, whatever you have in hand. You play the cards you want to play, and then you discard most of those cards you have left in your hand, right? Except for 1 or 2 cards that you really have to hope to play. Like you have a rare candy you're hoping to use or something like that. But for the most part, you're ditching the cards in hand, so you're drawing 4 to 5 cards you'd hope with it. And that's not a bad it's not a bad option then, right? Drawing 4 isn't good, but drawing 4 is not bad though, right? If there was a draw 4 supporter flat up, I think it would see some play, right? We mock draw 3, which isn't terrible. Draw 4, which is kind of where this falls at, with some agency over what you keep in your hand. So I think it's got a place in the game. That it's very much. I think this should be played some for sure.
Yeah, and it's oh wow, it's really not played very much. Yeah, it's a card I played a little. And it's actually in the current or no, sorry, it's in the last pre-release format, where I think you and I are both playing some and sometimes playing it, not always
Yeah.
playing it. But I'm thinking about this card. This is the same as Sightseer, I believe. Yeah, so these are the same card. They're actually like the wording is really different. Well, I mean, the Naveen's weird because this is you draw, then it says before you draw, you discard. So if you're just like following along with the card and doing it as you read it, you'll like do it wrong. But yeah, the Sightseer was okay, and it wasn't like super good. I didn't really play too much when Sightseer was in standard. I played it some in I think themed. I think it was in the themed decks on the set. The Blaze
Okay.
Volcano and Stormcaller. I think it was in Stormcaller, but regardless, it's like okay. I mean, it's a decent draw supporter. You look at Carmen as well. Naveen, other than turn 1, going first is better than Carmen, because you can do what Carmen does, or it can do something else. It gives you
Right.
opportunity there. So Naveen is really like decent. It's not like crazy good, but it's decent.
Right. I mean, Carmen lets you play at turn 1, right? That's where
Yeah.
Carmen has going first. But after that, Naveen is just better, right? So and Carmen definitely sees play. So therefore, why it's most of the time Carmen's not being played turn one on those decks, so therefore Naveen is better most of the time than Carmen. So it should, yeah, just I think the case makes itself of why it should be around some in index.
Yeah, I was like, Carmen doesn't see that much, but it sees like a decent chunk of play. I mean, not that much, but certainly a lot more than Naveen, and I think they're about the same level. I mean, Carmen is so like interesting in what it does, and obviously kind of works
Yeah,
with me out the X. I was actually looking, I was like, wow, these are decks I wasn't expecting to see, and I was like, wait, it's expanded, and it's apparently pretty good expanded, which I guess makes sense there. But with Meowth, like Carmen is good, but then Naveen is, if you're not like doing super heavy Meowth stuff, then just playing Naveen is probably pretty good, especially if you're looking to discard.
yeah. I mean, look, if you're playing Meowth, then you can get your Carmen turn one, so play like one Carmen, and then play some Naveen, right? If you're not playing Meowth EX, then maybe you got to go with four Carmen. I get it just for reliability, but outside of that one turn, Carmen's the worst card. So anyway, so those are the cards we have for underrated, right? So um, what any closing words there?
I mean, I just say, obviously with these cards being underrated, these are cards that we think are better than presumably the average viewer or listener thinks. So I say try these cards. Like they're interesting, and we'll try them as well. I think we both of us got some ideas for decks to play.
Yeah.
Actually, like recording this and before and researching and stuff like that. So like exploring cards that you're not familiar with is super fun. Don't just play cards because like players maybe recommend try out cards that you think are underrated. Tell us in the comment section as well cards you think are underrated. And everyone has different play styles as well. Like I really like Explorer's Guides, but that's partially because of how I play. And
Yeah.
so you might find some cards that you're like, wow, this card's super good for how I play. And yeah, I mean, just tell us those in the comment section on YouTube. Again, leave those comments on YouTube, on our channels, 10 Types or Uncommon Fossil. But you can listen to us on podcasting platforms. You cannot comment there. Well, you can. We unfortunately probably won't see it. But we hope you enjoyed. Make sure you like, subscribe, hit the bell on our YouTube channels. But we hope you enjoyed. And as always, we're excited to see you in the next episode.
Take care.